Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shaped the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and in this edition, we caught up with Debbie McCormick of Team USA a few days after her runner-up finish at the Women's World Championship in Grande Prairie. Well, hi, Debbie. Thanks for being on the show. I appreciate your time. And first of all, congratulations on a great run at the Worlds in Grande Prairie. I know you were probably disappointed by the result in the final, but it sure was an entertaining game against a really great Swedish team. And I think it was great for women's curling. So with a few days to reflect, what are your thoughts on the week?
Well, we had a great week. We had a great run. I mean, I personally think it's the best I've ever played. I've learned so much as a skip. I've been skipping now. I think this is my third year. So it was great in that aspect. We are disappointed, with the silver, but I think once the hurt goes away a bit, we will reflect. And there's a lot of positives to take away from the last couple weeks.
You talked a bit about learning as a skip, and after the final game, you talked about maybe needing to learn angles a bit better. I'm imagining that with your schedule and the teams you usually play, you can probably win a lot simply with just execution. And when you play at that level, you're starting to see just what the difference is. And are you hoping to maybe travel a bit more next year to play more teams like Norberg or other teams like that?
Yes, definitely. And angles do come with experience. But yes, we were hoping this next season to play in more spiels. We kind of had a hard time this year because Tracy Sachin, who was lead on my 2003 World Championship team, had an injury. And then we picked up Natalie Nicholson. We were lucky to do that, but she couldn't make a lot of the spiels. So we only really played in about 3 majors, where usually we play in about 6 majors a year.
There really weren't a lot of spiels this year either as well. I mean, there wasn't a huge schedule out there with the
there's
Olympics.
never really anything in January for sure, but we went to London, Ontario, and we won that spiel, so that was great. And we went to Regina, Duluth, and Madison. So we went to, a couple, but we usually do quite a bit more.
You've won the spiel in London twice now, right?
Yes.
Hey, a couple things about the final. The high-scoring game did leave your team a little short of time at the end. Did that affect your play at all? I thought you played the last 2 ends especially really well, but did it affect your play at all?
Looking back, I don't really think it did. I mean, we had to rush through a couple shots, but I don't think it changed any decisions or any execution. It's always nice to have more time on the clock than rushing through it, but I think the last couple ends we really managed our time really well, and I was forced just to put down the broom and call a shot. And I think looking back, I do better that way, and I think that's something else that I really need to work on.
That's sort of interesting, the thought that when you had to, you just put it down and go, and it might not be your best thought.
Yeah, sometimes you play better that way because you can't think about it too much. You just have to, let your body take over and throw the shot, and you're not allowed to overthink things or overanalyze anything.
Have you read the book Blink?
I haven't.
You should, by Malcolm Gladwell. His thing is all about the people make their best decisions quickly.
Well, I think it's very true.
So, speaking of decisions and everything else, there was a bit of criticism of the strategy of both you and Team Canada in the 10th end of the semifinal. Looking back, in hindsight, and everybody loves to armchair skip, but with hindsight and maybe talking to your coaches, do you think you would have played that 10th end any differently?
Probably. I mean, I don't think the delayed corner was a very good strategy call, but I thought when Kelly put her first shot right pretty much on the button in the forefoot, I just wasn't comfortable putting up a corner guard because I felt then they'd be, guarding it the entire end. And I was thinking in my head, even if we score one, we're tied. I just, couldn't let them steal a point. So we took that shot out, and then they hit again, and then I think I put up a corner. And, not really thinking, obviously, they could take that out, but hindsight, I might have froze to it or put up a corner and, just went for it. But it all worked out, and we scored our 2 points, luckily. So, yeah, sure, there's always things during a game that you would have done differently. But then again, if you don't execute them, it's not going to help you either. So I think at the time when you're playing, you're just kind of going with your gut and doing the best that you can.
I appreciate your honesty on that. You were already world champion. You beat Colleen Jones in the final in 2003. How do you think the women's game has changed since then?
Well, I just think it's gotten a lot stronger, and obviously having 12 teams now at the World Championships, it just makes for a longer week, a lot more games. At the end of the week, you're really tired. I would say by Thursday or Friday, we were starting to not be playing as well, and I think we were starting to get a little tired, but we really had to pull together and work through that, and I think we did a really good job with that. But I think the field is definitely getting stronger. In the past, there's always been teams that you think to yourself, this is going to be a pretty easy game, just execute, do fine. But now everyone's learning strategy really well, and it's just not the same, and it's only going to get stronger.
Yeah, I think technically, I mean, there's just very few teams that look weak at a Worlds anymore, if any. I mean, even the Japanese women's team that didn't do very well at this Worlds, but I mean, they look like they throw the rock really well. So
right, and even Team China, I mean, they haven't been on the world stage that much, and they just played great too. They almost had a chance to get in there. So you can't really count anybody out. You really just have to focus and play your best when you're at the Worlds.
Okay, enough about the Worlds. Your team is a new combination this year with a front end that used to play for Patty Link, but you just said you played a limited schedule, but you did pretty well. I mean, you won in London, you won the U.S. title, finished runner-up at the World. Is a pretty good season in anyone's book. But if you go back to the start of the season, was it a little tough to get motivated with so much focus on the Olympics and Cassie Johnson's team and not much focus anywhere else?
Well, last year was definitely a disappointing season. We lost the Olympic trials by about 4 inches, and it took a long time to get over that and to get motivated again. But, I think with that, it just, losing like that only makes you stronger and want it more. And I think we're all really determined to get back on top this year. So I think as a competitor, if you've still got it in you and you still love the game and you still want to play and compete, it just makes you stronger and want it even more.
Your team is off to the BDO Women's Players Championship in Calgary in April. Are you going to be recuperated in time for that event?
Definitely. We're all looking really forward to the event. It's going to be great. There's so many really good teams, and it's the first time for the women to have a chance at the Players Championship. There's been that kind of money out there in the past, but not for a while. So, we're really looking forward to it. Calgary's a great city. We're just really excited to hopefully end our season on a higher note than even the silver medal at the World Championship.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great event. I mean, I think the slams are really becoming great events, and it's nice to see women have an opportunity to play for some serious money. All right, we end our interviews with something we call a run back. I give you a topic, and you give me your thoughts on it in 1 to 3 words.
Okay.
All right. Best team at the Worlds that didn't make the playoffs.
Okay. I would say China, just because, China.
Just because they just missed getting the playoffs.
3 words, it's hard. Say China.
Why Canadians should travel to at least one Bonspiel in the United States next year?
Because it's the best fun ever.
Don Duguid's commentary on CNBC.
Oh, I don't know. They're hard on teams, I think. They could be a little bit nicer, not so hard on teams.
I thought he was, to be honest, I thought they were a little tough on Team USA for a broadcast, and I'm a guy who grew up in Canada, so
I haven't totally watched all the games, but I think most of the commentators are pretty hard on a lot of the players that are, trying to do their best out there.
Well, I'm all for being tough on players when they make mistakes, but I actually thought, even though I'm a naturalized American, I thought it was maybe a hair pro-Canadian all the time, to be honest, but that's just me. If I'm going to criticize the commentators, I do actually think that the commentators should call it as they see it. I like Mike Harris on CBC for that reason, but how likely you are to go it alone when you play euchre?
A lot.
And the best curling club in the United States other than your own?
Duluth.
All right, hey, it was a pleasure speaking to you, Debbie. I appreciate your time, and good luck at the Players' Championship and next season.
Thanks, Dean. I appreciate it.
That's Debbie McCormick on The Curling Show. As usual, thanks for listening and telling others about the show. Our audience grew another 35% last month. Black pudding is on the way.
Ooh.